Hello and welcome to the audio adaptation of William Z. Foster's The Crisis in the Socialist Party. Before we begin, I just wanted to give my thanks to Red Star Publishers for providing low-priced Marxist works. Now, on to the reading. William Z. Foster, The Crisis in the Socialist Party. Chapter 1. The Failure of the Socialist Party and the Reason Why. When the Socialist Labor Party split in 1900 and 1901 and gave birth to the Socialist Party, this was a progressive development. The Socialist Labor Party, although some 20 years earlier in the field, had not been able to root itself firmly among the American masses. It remained a skeleton organization of the foreign-born, and its program and activities had little immediate relation to the life of the native workers. The main cause of this is its narrow sectarian policy, especially in the previous 10 years under the leadership of Daniel de Leon. In 1900, capitalism was undergoing a very rapid expansion. The working class was also growing swiftly, and its grievances and struggles were multiplying. There was an urgent need for a better organization of the workers' struggles, economically and politically, in the light of the revolutionary goal of the working class. In this situation, breaking through a hard sectarian shell of the Socialist Labor Party, the Socialist Party came into existence. Great hopes were placed in the new organization by the bulk of revolutionary elements at the time. And during the oncoming years, these revolutionary forces put forth the most intense efforts to strengthen the party. Many thousands of workers made the building the Socialist Party their life's work. They struggled and fought for it, and prepared and distributed seas of propaganda. At times it looked as though their efforts would succeed, for the Socialist Party gradually grew in membership and influence. It appeared the American Party would be able to progress as fast as the rapidly growing socialist parties in the other capitalist countries. But since the formation of the Socialist Party, 35 years have passed, and what do we see? The Socialist Party, into which so much devoted work was put, is today small, stagnant, and weak. In fact, is actually declining both in organizational strength and influence. In 1903, the Socialist Party had 15,970 members, and in 1935, it had 19,121, or just about the number it started with a generation before. And it is now rapidly losing membership. The Socialist Party's vote in 1932 was 883,342, or less than 897,011, which is polled in 1912. 35 years ago, the party's trade union influence was also many times greater than it is in its present time. The party has long since lost its single representative in Congress, and so it is on all fronts, stagnation and decline. To cap the climax, the Socialist Party is now undergoing a national split which has thrown the party into confusion, is causing it a heavy loss in membership, and generally creating a critical situation. Obviously, the Socialist Party, like the Socialist Labor Party before it, has failed. That is the meaning of its present crisis. The Socialist Party has not been the means of winning the American masses ideologically for socialism, nor of providing them with necessary effective political organization. The reality of the failure of the Socialist Party is emphasized by the very existence of the Communist Party. It was only because the Socialist Party did not function as an effective revolutionary organization of the American working class that the Communist Party came into being. Success was possible. It is a pertinent question to ask why this miserable showing of the Socialist Party over so many years. It is the best that could have been done for socialism in the greatest capitalist country in the world. The workers have the right to a correct answer to this question. No party can claim the sole right to carry the banner of socialism unless it can effectively defend it. Self-criticism is a cardinal Leninist virtue, and the Socialist Party has great need at present to practice it. The lessons to be learned should be helpful in bringing the Socialist Party out of its present serious crisis. The customary explanation for the inability of the Socialist Party to grow is that it was because of the great objective difficulties in the United States that it had to contend with. There is much merit in this contention, but as we see, it does not explain basically the failure of the Socialist Party. Among the big objective factors militating among the development of class consciousness among the workers and building revolutionary party in the United States were A. the existence of plentiful government-free land during several generations, B. the traditionally higher wage and living standards, C. the development of a large and conservative labor aristocracy made up principally of American-born workers, D. the presence of millions of low-paid, disenfranchised immigrant workers of various nationalities, languages, religions, and traditions. E. the passage of large numbers of workers into the ranks of petty bourgeois, and many even into the petty bourgeoisie during their long period of industrial expansion. F. the existence of relatively high degree of the formal democratic rights of free speech, free press, free assembly, to organize and strike, to be elected to any office, the fiction of legalized social equality, etc., which were won by the toilers many years before in the earlier stages of the bourgeois revolution, and which no longer serve as major issues of immediate political struggle, as for example they did in Germany, Austria, and other European countries. These many economic, political, and social factors undoubtedly tended powerfully to blur class lines, to create bourgeois property illusions among the workers, and to prevent the independent political organization as a class. But they did not stifle the class struggle altogether. Far from it. The American masses bitterly resented the brutal and ferocious exploitation to which they were subjected, and they resolutely fought against it. This is amply shown by their long history of determined trade union struggles. Prior to the Great War, no country in the world except Tsarist Russia had such a record of violent and piercingly fought strikes as the United States. The workers' strong class instinct and fighting trade union spirit were the raw material out of which a real revolutionary party could have been built. Not as big as a party perhaps as in some European countries, yet certainly a strong, healthy, growing organization. But the Socialist Party proved glaringly incapable of educating those discontented masses, of raising their struggle from the economic to the political sphere, and of building a strong party from their ranks. It is our task to learn the reasons why. Why the Socialist Party failed. When the Socialist Party broke through the crust of the Socialist Labor Party sectarianism and took up its work of education and organization, it found indeed a very hard problem before it, one more difficult, in fact, than that faced by the Socialist Party in any major capitalist country. The working class, in the grip of a tremendous ruling class propaganda, was thoroughly saturated with capitalist illusions. The trade unions were already in the hands of the deeply reactionary Gompers clique. The great mass of workers were still tied to the two big capitalist parties. Therefore, the most elementary work of enlightenment and organization stood before the party. In this difficult situation, in order to grow and to put itself at the head of these backward masses, dominated by ruthless capitalist enemies, the Socialist Party had boldly to tackle the great problems of mass education, organization, and struggle confronting it. It had to militantly wrest the leadership of the masses of the hands of the capitalists and their labor agents. It had to be a fighting party, a party of the militant proletarian class struggle. This meant that to develop such a party of Marxian class struggle, the Socialist Party had to fulfill two major basic conditions. 1. to give active political leadership to the workers in their everyday fights for immediate and burning economic and political demands, and 2. Systematically to educate its own membership and mass following in the principles of Marxian socialism. Only in this manner could the Socialist Party come forward as the real vanguard of the workers in the class struggle, and at the same time build up a strong body of revolutionary fighters to serve as the very foundation and structure of the party in all its work. The validity of such a policy of Marxian class struggle is demonstrated by the whole history of the American labor movement. No organization can make headway against a powerful American capitalist class without an aggressive fighting policy. For example, the trade unions have always grown most in the periods of the greatest militancy, and stagnated most in their periods of the intensest class collaboration. Recent expressions of this truth were the rapid expansion of the trade unions during the Great Strike wave of 1933 through 1934, and the paralyzing decay that set in among them during the period of widespread class collaboration and the so-called good times from 1923 to 1929. Another elementary proof of the effectiveness and correctness of the policy of class struggle is furnished by the growth of the Communist Party in numbers and in influence. Although the Communist Party is only half as old as the Socialist Party, it has about 4 times as many members. It is also unified and healthy, while the Socialist Party is torn with factionalism. The Communist Party, moreover, has had to face far greater persecution than was ever the case with the Socialist Party, exemplified by the Palmer Red Raids, in which thousands were arrested, wholesale expulsions from the trade unions and industries by reactionary American Federation of Labor leaders, violent attacks by the capitalist class, government deportations, etc. The growth of the Communist Party in the face of these difficulties is to be ascribed to its brave and tireless class struggle policy. Still, another demonstration of the correctness of the class struggle policy is provided by the history of the Socialist Party itself. The best periods of growth of the Socialist Party were exactly those in which its policies, because of left-wing pressure, took on more of the class struggle character, thus 1907 through 1912, and it was exactly during these periods in which the Socialist Party plunged most deeply in the class collaboration. For example, 1923 through 1932, that the party was weakest and least effective in the class struggle. From all this, we are led directly to the principal cause of the Socialist Party's failure historically. This failure was caused precisely by the fact that, except upon rare occasions, the Socialist Party has not carried on a policy of class struggle. On the contrary, its traditional course has been one of opportunism, of reformism, of class collaboration. Throughout its history, the Socialist Party has flagrantly violated the 2 fundamentals necessary to the development of Marxian class struggle policy required for the building of a revolutionary party in the given American conditions. That is, 1. It has not come forward as the militant leader of the toiling masses in their daily struggle over urgent economic and political issues, but instead has systematically evaded assuming such leadership. 2. It has not striven to build up a strong body of revolutionary Marxian understanding among the party membership and mass following, but on the contrary, has definitely hindered and checked the growth of such revolutionary education. The reformist and opportunist policy which the Socialist Party has traditionally followed was the natural consequence of the composition its decisive leading forces. From its inception, the Socialist Party attracted many elements of the city petty bourgeoisie who were feeling acutely the pressure of the trusts upon the middle class and who had no faith in the 2 old parties, but who in no sense were Marxian revolutionaries. Hence, the party became infested with a horde of lawyers, doctors, preachers, professors, journalists, small businessmen, with an occasional millionaire socialist thrown in. And they, extra vocal and very energetic, soon arrived at complete domination over the party. These people, the Hillkits, Burgers, Works, Wallings, Spargos, Russells, Myers, Waylands, Simons, Harrimans, Bensons, Stokes, etc., etc., were not revolutionists. They were radicals, the left wing of the petty bourgeoisie, which was being crushed by monopoly capital and which had no party of its own. Over and above mere wordy differences between them, the decisive thing animating them all was to build the Socialist Party into a sort of progressive populist party. To this end, they advocated opportunist policies of government and municipal ownership of an industry and various minor legislative reforms, with the general idea of someday transforming capitalism into socialism through a peaceful process of the workers voting themselves into power and then legally buying out the industries. The general conception of the proletariat's role by these middle class elements, was to serve an instrument of the petty bourgeoisie in its fight for self-preservation against the advancing big capitalists. To them, the class struggle of the workers was essentially something foreign, something at best, that they only had a dilettante interest in, and which, at worst, was a danger to their vote-catching and class collaboration schemes. Consequently, the middle-class, intellectual leaders of the party throughout its history played down every manifestation of working-class fighting spirit, and all along the way, through the years they distorted and suppressed the teaching of Marxism to the party members, and following and used their own poster to check the development off, and even to check out the party in thousands, the very revolutionary elements, without whom the party could not possibly be built. The left wing of the party, the general result of these long-continued reformist, non-revolutionary policies was to make it impossible to build the Socialist Party into a strong, revolutionary organization. The natural end product of such a history is the present-day, weak and stagnant Socialist Party.